Today, we're diving into the overwhelming history, the blinding luxury, and the quiet magic of Paris through the eyes of Aarohi, a girl from Meerut, India, and her partner Prakhar. This isn't just some standard tour, it's a massive collision of two completely different worlds. You can almost feel the chill of the Parisian air and hear the pages of their story turning as we walk these iconic streets with them. By the end of this, you won't just hear a story. You'll feel an undeniable pull to experience their full journey for yourself. Take a look at this quote. A Meerut girl standing in front of 800-year-old towers, Europe suddenly started feeling a little more like mine. Wow, right? That brilliantly captures the emotional core of our journey today. I mean, have you ever stood somewhere so grand, so unfamiliar, and suddenly felt this strange, quiet sense of belonging? Aarohi's journey is all about that contrast and the eventual harmony between her grounding Indian roots and the massive, almost intimidating weight of Parisian history. When you finally hold their complete, unfiltered story in your hands, you won't just be reading about Paris. You'll actually find yourself subconsciously unlocking the hidden depths of your own past travels. It's powerful stuff. All right, let's get into Section 1, Sacred Stones of Paris, Finding Faith in the Architecture. We're starting our journey right where Paris itself began, on Ile de la Cité. It's this tiny island in the River Seine, home to some of the most breathtakingly sacred stones in the world. Our very first stop, Notre Dame, which literally translated means Our Lady, dedicated to the Virgin Mary. Guys, the sheer mind-bending scale of this place is it's staggering. These towers took over a century to build, starting way back in the 1100s. Think about that. The people who laid the first stones literally never lived to see it finished. And Prakhar shared this fascinating legend with Aarohi about why the two front towers aren't perfectly identical twins. The story goes that the builders made them slightly asymmetrical on purpose because, quote, only God can make things perfect. And despite its massive, heavy Gothic stone exterior, the second you step inside, it radiates this soft, profoundly calming energy. And instantly, a massive connection sparked between these two very distant worlds. See, when they were walking into the cathedral, a security guard stopped Prakhar and asked him to take off his cap. In Europe, the rule is generally to cover your shoulders and take off your hats. But back in a mandir in India, you dress modestly, remove your footwear, and cover your head. Aarohi had this beautiful realization. Whether you're standing in a freezing Paris cathedral or a warm Meerut mandir, that deeply human cultural instinct for reverence and respect, it's exactly the same. Moving on to Section 2, the weight of luxury, the Champs Élysées reality check. So, from the sacred, echoing quiet of the churches, our travelers stepped into a completely different kind of temple. The word Élysées actually translates to paradise. And honestly, as evening fell, this street totally lived up to the name. It was glowing with luxury brands that Aarohi perfectly described as looking just like Diwali lights strung up against the night sky. But as beautiful as it is, this is a paradise built on pure consumerism. It's this untouchable world of extreme wealth that can feel, incredibly intimidating when you're walking through it for the very first time. To really feel that intimidation, picture this. You walk up to a display window, you spot a delicate gold chain at Cartier. Flip over the tiny little tag and see this number. 345,000 euros. Yeah, Aarohi and Prakhar were literally just window shopping, but that number, it stopped them dead in their tracks. Aarohi literally gasped. She was thinking, okay, that's a bit pricey in rupees, but then Prakhar leans in, gives a gentle laugh, and drops this grounding reality check. Euros, love, not rupees. Guys, do the math. That is roughly 3.5 crore rupees. Aarohi's brain practically short-circuited. That tiny little gold chain could literally buy an entire house back home in Meerut. It's such an amazing moment of culture shock, and it firmly anchors you right inside her perspective. So naturally, they decided to brave the queue and step inside Louis Vuitton. The vibe? Aarohi called it murder-level expensive. Just imagine feeling like tiny ants, completely surrounded by these impossibly silent staff members in sharp black suits. Prakhar, playfully acting the confident king, tries on a men's blazer. The price? 21,000 euros. Even the absolute smallest handbag in the place was 1,800 euros. Their actual mission? To somehow survive this 2-hour, multi-story labyrinth on a strict 100 euro budget just to grab one small souvenir. After finally escaping the freezing, high-stakes pressure of Louis Vuitton, they found some much-needed, warm, physical relief in the Tuileries garden. Hearing that satisfying crunch of gravel beneath their feet, they sat down on a terrace, ordered 2 cafés crème for the equivalent of just 180 rupees each, and just watched Parisian grandpas passionately playing bowls. It's a great reminder, right? Pure joy and true Parisian culture absolutely do not require a $21,000 price tag. All right, on to Section 3, Surviving the Louvre, the exhaustion of history. Because from consumer exhaustion, they walked straight into historical exhaustion. So they smartly bypassed the massive outdoor lines by using IMP's iconic inverted glass pyramid entrance. And Brahar, with his classic engineer mind, started tracking this fascinating timeline. The Louvre wasn't actually built as a museum. Nope, it started out as a fortress way back in the 1100s, evolved into a massive royal palace, got looted by revolutionaries, and only then became the public museum we know today. But guys, listen, it is the largest museum in the entire world. So after a few hours of walking, that deep, bone-tiring European museum fatigue really starts to set in. While wandering those endless echoing halls, Aarohi made a genuinely beautiful observation about the clash of art forms. On one hand, you've got the European style, right? Capturing every single muscle, revealing all flesh in perfect, unashamed marble. But then, her mind immediately pulled her back to Indian art, like the famous veiled Rebecca statue, which hides its beauty behind a delicate, mysterious marble veil. Both styles are absolute perfection. They're just communicating in totally different languages. Right before the Louvre completely wiped them out, they ended up in the Jewel Hall, just staring at Napoleon's glittering diamond tiara. Aarohi makes a joke about a Meerut girl wearing something like that, and Prakhar just smiles, leans in, and says, "One day, Aarohi. Queen life is waiting." It's these quiet, intensely supportive little whispers between them that completely change how you do love and travel. And honestly, when you read the full depth of their private conversations in the actual book, you don't just witness their bond, you'll subconsciously find yourself evaluating the depth of your own relationships. It has this incredible persuasive power to pull you right in. Let's dramatically shift gears for Section 4, the modern art shock, Centre Pompidou's rebellion. Okay, so the next day happened to be a free museum Sunday, so they headed over to the Centre Pompidou, and man, it was a total shock to the system. Aarohi takes one look at this massive, industrial-looking building and just hilariously blurts out, "Ye museum hai? Factory hai." Like, is this a museum or a factory? And honestly, looking at the place, she made a completely valid point. The Pompidou is this massive, proud rebellion against the hidden wiring, overly royal norms of traditional museums like the Louvre. It has this wild, inside-out design. The building literally wears its heart and its guts on the outside. You've got red pipes for the fire stairs, blue for air vents, green for plumbing, and yellow for the elevators. It's an absolute chaotic masterpiece. And the art inside? Just as shocking but profoundly moving. They walked into this one room covered entirely in copper leaves, featuring a wall shaped like human lungs frozen in mid-breath. It was this silent, haunting shout about pollution. Prakhar stared at it, the realization washing over him, and muttered softly, "Delhi smog turned into sculpture." It's brilliant, really. It shows how art, no matter how bizarre or geographically far away, can instantly connect you right back to the heavy, breathing realities of your own home. Which brings us to Section 5, Unscripted Parisian Nights, Finding Strength in Chaos. Let's get out of the museums entirely and step into the unpredictable, winding alleys of Les Halles. While they were exploring these quiet evening alleys, Prakhar pushes open the door to this neon-lit place called Boxman. They were totally expecting a quiet, cozy pub. Instead, the door swings open to dim neon lights, leather harnesses hanging on the walls, mesh jockstraps, and a literal wall of heavy bass. Yep, they had accidentally walked right into a gay club. For Prakhar, who's usually this calm, steady engineer, his deep Indian shyness completely took over. He physically panicked, squeezed Aarohi's hand tight, and rushed them right back out onto the street, breathing heavily. But here's where it gets amazing. Their dynamic completely flipped in that moment out on the street. Prakhar, who had been Aarohi's absolute rock throughout this overwhelming city, was genuinely shaken. But Aarohi, she found her fierce, steady strength. She leaned right into him, laughed, and teased. "Don't worry, you're mine. No one is stealing you today." In the sudden, unscripted chaos of a Parisian night, she found her own grounding power. Finally, Section 6, Bottling the Memory, the birth of Velvet Aarohi. That newfound power absolutely carried over into their final day. Aarohi decided, you know what? I'm done with traditional paintings. She took total charge of the itinerary and navigated them straight to the Musée du Parfum. She stepped right into the traditional art of French perfume making from grass. It's fascinating, harvesting flowers at the absolute crack of dawn, steaming the petals for hours to carefully extract the oils, and then aging those oils in oak barrels for literally years. As Aarohi explored the scent stations, she realized something. Indian skin tends to fight sharp citrus notes, but it absorbs heavy jasmine beautifully. She was no longer that intimidated tourist feeling like a tiny ant at Louis Vuitton. She confidently selected her own €12 fresh, earthy mix of bergamot and sandalwood. Right there, she became Velvet Aarohi. So I'll leave you with this question. As scent becomes memory and memory becomes identity, how will your own travels change you? Aarohi transformed from an overwhelmed outsider into a woman who firmly claimed her own piece of Paris. The exact blueprint for this kind of profound travel awakening? It's hidden right within the pages of their full story. I highly recommend picking up the book. Once you absorb it completely, I guarantee your next flight won't just be a vacation. It's going to be a reinvention. So, what will be your defining moment?